Hare Krishna, everybody. Welcome home. Welcome back to Radha Lane. We did a program last night over at the farm. How are you going to keep them down on the farm after you've seen Radha Lane? Huh? So, welcome to all of you out in cyberspace. We're going deeper into the Bhagavatam, and boy, there's some sparks flying here between Sati and Daksha and all the followers of Shiva and Daksha and the Brahmanas, and teaching us a very strong lesson. We don't necessarily want to go to the heavenly kingdom or to the higher planets, because the same thing goes on there as goes on here. You know? Kali Yuga. Not Kali Yuga, but the Kali Yuga affects every place, but it's not as affected in other places. But those things go on everywhere, even in the Satya Yuga. So, okay. Let's hear Sanatana Goswami's glorification of the Srimad-Bhagavatam, and it'll remind us that every syllable pours forth a flood of prema. Srimad-Bhagavata Mahima Stotram by Srila Sanatana Goswami Prabhupada. Sarva Shastrabdi Piyusha Sarva Vedaika Satpala Sarva Siddhanta Ratnaja Sarva Lokaika Drikprada. O nectar from the ocean of all scriptures, singular fruit of all the Vedas, rich mine of the precious gems of all conclusive truths, you are the only giver of sight to all the worlds. Sarva Bhagavata Prana Srimad Bhagavata Prabho Kalidwandodita Ditya Sri Krishna Parivartita. O life air of all the Supreme Lord's devotees, O Master Srimad Bhagavatam, you are the sun risen in the darkness of Kali. You are the exact image of Sri Krishna. Paramananda Pataya Prema Varshakshadayate Sarvada Sarvasevyaya Sri Krishnaya Namostume. I bow down to you, who are supremely blissful to read. Your every syllable pours down a flood of prema. You can always be served by everyone. You are Sri Krishna himself. Madeka Bando Matsangin Madguro Mad Mahadana Mad Nistadaga Mad Bhagya Mad Ananda Namostute. My only friend, my constant companion, my spiritual master, my great wealth, my savior, my good fortune, my source of ecstasy, I bow down to you. Asadu Saduta Dayin Atini Chuchata Kada Hanamunchagada Chinmam Premna Rit Kandayospura. O bestower of saintliness to the unsaintly, O exalter of the most fallen, please never leave me. Always appear in my heart and my voice with pure love. Just as we speak of pure love, in comes Nitya, the life of the party. Hare Krishna. Hari Bol Bhakti John. Nice to see you. They're trickling a little late today because it's nice weather outside. Sun's coming out for the first time in quite some time, and everybody's out enjoying the day. Okay, so fourth chapter, fourth canto, fourth chapter, text 23. Sati is given her father the sauce, as we say in the trade, in the preaching trade. When you correct somebody or point out somebody's defects that they need to correct, it's called giving the sauce.
The sauce?
Yeah, the hot sauce.
Okay.
It was somebody in our movement coined that phrase decades ago.
That means swag to us.
Yeah, now it's called swag. Well, anyway, sauce and swag are a little different thing. Okay, we take away the swag by the sauce. We give the sauce that takes away the swag a little bit. as long as the swag's not really swag. Okay. Yeah. It was so heavy last night. I was in a room full of a lot of new people, and when I got to that one purport where it talked about cutting out tongues and killing and all these things, I said, "Oops, maybe we just better talk for a while to kind of like." So here we are, back in the safe confines of the sannyas ashram library. And here we go. Sati is continuing to give her father Daksha the sauce. Because of our family relationship, when Lord Shiva addresses me as Dakshayani, I at once become morose, and my jolliness and my smile at once disappear. I feel very much sorry that my body, which is just like a bag, has been produced by you. I shall therefore give it up. Purport. The word Dakshayani means the daughter of King Daksha. Sometimes when there was relaxed conversation between husband and wife, Lord Shiva used to call Sati the daughter of King Daksha. And because this very word reminded her about her family relationship with King Daksha, she at once became ashamed. Because Daksha was an incarnation of all offenses. Daksha was the embodiment of envy, for he unnecessarily blasphemed the great personality, Lord Shiva. Simply upon hearing the word Dakshayani, she felt afflicted because of reference to the context, because her body was the symbol of all the offensiveness with which Daksha was endowed. Since her body was constantly a source of unhappiness, she decided to give it up. Text 24. Maitreya the sage told Vidura, "O annihilator of enemies," while thus speaking to her father in the arena of sacrifice, Sati sat down on the ground and faced north. Dressed in saffron garments, she sanctified herself with water and closed her eyes to absorb herself in the process of mystic yoga. So this is not an ordinary suicide going on here. We shouldn't think like that. This is something really special. She knows perfectly well she's not her body, and she's going to rejoin Sati Lord Shiva very soon as his eternal consort, because that's what she is. Those people doing these things are just like us changing our minds. I want to do this. No, change your mind. No, I want to do that. It's like that. It's not like normal people doing these things. Okay, purport. It is said that when a man desires to quit his body, he dresses in saffron garments. They say that the sannyasi is a social corpse. This is another way to commit suicide. You stop your social interactions and take the renounced order of life. Therefore, it appears that Sati changed her dress, indicating that she was going to quit the body given her by Daksha. Daksha was Sati's father, so instead of killing Daksha, she decided that it would be better to destroy the part of his body which was hers. Thus she decided to give up the body of Daksha by the yogic process. Sati was the wife of Lord Shiva, who is known as Yogeshwara, the best among all yogis, because he knows all the mystic processes of yoga. So it appeared that Sati also knew them. Either she learned yoga from her husband, or she was enlightened because she was the daughter of such a great king as Daksha. The perfection of yoga is that one can give up one's body or release oneself from the embodiment of material elements according to one's desire. Yogis who have attained perfection are not subject to death by natural laws. Such perfect yogis can leave the body whenever they desire. Generally, the yogi first of all becomes mature in controlling the air passing through within the body, thus bringing the soul to the top of the brain. When the body bursts into flames, the yogi can go anywhere he likes. This yoga system recognizes the soul, and thus it is distinct from the so-called yoga process for controlling the cells of the body, which has been discovered in the modern age. The real yoga process accepts the transmigration of the soul from one planet to another, or one body to another. It appears from this incident that Sati wanted to transfer her soul to another body or sphere. Text 25. First of all, she sat in the required Hare Krishna Samdini. First of all, she sat in the required sitting posture, and then she carried the life air upwards and placed it in the position of equilibrium near the navel. Then she raised her life air mixed with intelligence to the heart, and then gradually towards the pulmonary passage, and from there to between her eyebrows. Purport. The yogic process is to control the air passing within the body in different places called Shat Chakra, the 6 circles of air circulation. The air is raised from the abdomen to the navel, from the navel to the heart, from the heart to the throat, from the throat to between the eyebrows, and from between the eyebrows to the top of the cerebrum. That is the sum and substance of practicing yoga. Before practicing the real yoga system, one has to practice the sitting postures, because this helps in the breathing exercises, which control the airs going upwards and downwards. This is a great technique which one has to practice to attain the highest perfectional stage of yoga. But such practice is not meant for this age. No one in this age can attain the perfectional stage of such yoga. But people indulge in practicing sitting postures, which is more or less a gymnastic process. By such bodily gymnastics, one may develop good circulation and may therefore keep one's body fit. But if one simply restricts oneself to that gymnastic process, one cannot attain the highest perfectional stage. The yoga process as described in the Keshava Shruti prescribes how one can control his living force according to his desire and transmigrate from one body to another or from one place to another. In other words, yoga practice is not meant to keep the body fit. Any transcendental process of spiritual realization automatically helps one to keep the body fit, for it is the spirit soul that keeps the body always fresh. As soon as the spirit soul is out of the body, the material body immediately begins to decompose. Any spiritual process keeps the body fit without separate endeavor. But if one takes it that the ultimate aim of yoga is to maintain the body, then he is mistaken. The real perfection of yoga is elevation of the soul to the higher position, or the liberation of the soul from material entanglement. Some yogis try to elevate the soul to higher planetary systems, where the standard of life is different from that of this planet, and where the material comforts, lifespan, and other facilities for self-realization are greater. And some yogis endeavor to elevate the soul to the spiritual world. The spiritual Vaikuntha planets. The Bhakti Yoga process directly elevates the soul to the spiritual planets, where life is eternally blissful and full of knowledge. Therefore, Bhakti Yoga is considered to be the highest, the greatest of all yoga systems. Text 26. Thus, in order to give up her body, which had been so respectfully and affectionately seated on the lap of Lord Shiva, who is worshipped by great sages and saints, Sati, due to anger towards her father, began to meditate on the fiery air within the body. Purport. Lord Shiva is described herein as the best of all great souls. Although Sati's body was born of Daksha, Lord Shiva used to adore her by sitting her on his lap, and this is considered a great token of respect. Thus Sati's body was not ordinary, but still she decided to give it up because it was the source of unhappiness because of its connection with Daksha. This severe example set by Sati is to be followed. One should be extremely careful about associating with persons who are not respectful to the higher authorities. It is instructed, therefore, in the Vedic literature that one should always be free from the association of atheists and non-devotees and should try to associate with devotees. For by the association of a devotee, one can be elevated to the platform of self-realization. This injunction is stressed in many places in Srimad-Bhagavatam. If one wants to be liberated from the clutches of material existence, then one has to associate with great souls. And if one wants to continue one's material, existential life, then one may associate with persons who are materialistic. The materialistic way of life is based on sex life. Thus, both becoming addicted to sex life and associating with persons who are addicted to sex life are condemned in the Vedic literature, because such association will simply interfere with one's spiritual progress. However, association with great personalities, devotees who are great souls, will elevate one to the spiritual platform. Sati Devi decided to quit the body she had obtained from Daksha's body, and she wanted to transfer herself to another body so that she might have completely uncontaminated association with Lord Shiva. Of course, it is understood that in her next life she would take birth as the daughter of the Himalayas, Parvati, and then she would again accept Lord Shiva as her husband. Sati and Lord Shiva are eternally related. Even after she changes her body, their relationship is never broken. So, the clear lesson here is that if you actually know that you're not your body, you're not afraid of death, you're not afraid of leaving the body. What to speak of you're an eternal associate? What to speak of you're an eternal consort of Lord Shiva? You know exactly what you're doing. So the shocking picture, this shocking event of seeing a beautiful young girl sit down and cause her body to burst into flames in front of a huge congregation of sages and brahmanas and ghosts and spirits and whoever else were there is shocking to us. But it wasn't. To Sati, it was a completely normal thing to do. Okay. Well, normal, that may be a little bit ordinary. It wasn't an ordinary, normal thing to do, but she knew exactly what she was doing, and she knew exactly what was going to happen next. Translation, text 27. She concentrated all her meditation on the holy lotus feet of her husband, Lord Shiva. I wonder who's blowing that conch shell. You know, some of the conductors are a little sensitive. They don't like lean on it, And in the early morning, I get up pretty early, and the first one that comes through is, sometimes as early as 3 o'clock. And there's one particular, there's this one driver, and when he comes through, he knows it's 3 o'clock in the morning. He knows there's hardly any chance that anybody's going to even be on the road. And he just leans on it all the way through. I'm thinking maybe he's got a thing about deity worship or something.
I was thinking, like, how did I sleep through this? Like, how do I sleep through this every day and not hear that? I didn't know that there was a train on by.
Amazing. Okay, here we go. Sati concentrated all her meditation on the holy lotus feet of her husband, Lord Shiva, who is the supreme spiritual master of all the world. Thus she became completely cleansed of all taints of sin and quit her body in a blazing fire by meditation on the fiery elements. Purport. Sati at once thought of the lotus feet of her husband, Lord Shiva, who is one of the 3 great personalities of Godhead in charge of the management of the material world. And simply by meditating on his lotus feet, she derived such great pleasure that she forgot everything in relationship with her body. This pleasure was certainly material because she gave up her body for another body that was also material. But by this example, we can appreciate the devotee's pleasure in concentrating his mind and intention on the lotus feet of the Supreme Lord Vishnu, or Krishna. There is such transcendental bliss in simply meditating on the lotus feet of the Lord that one can forget everything but the Lord's transcendental form. This is the perfection of yogic samadhi, or ecstasy. In this verse it is stated that by such meditation she became free from all contamination. What was that contamination? The contamination was her concept of the body derived from daksha. But she forgot that bodily relationship in trance. The purport is that when one becomes free from all bodily relationships within this material world and simply places himself in the position of an eternal servant of the Supreme Lord, it is to be understood that all the contamination of his material attachment has been burned by the blazing fires of transcendental ecstasy. It is not necessary for one to manifest a blazing fire externally, for if one forgets all his bodily relationships within this material world and becomes situated in a spiritual identity, it is said that one has been freed from all material contamination by the blazing fire of yogic samadhi, or ecstasy. That is the topmost perfection of yoga. If one keeps his bodily relationships within this material world and poses himself as a great yogi, he is not a bona fide yogi. In Srimad-Bhagavatam 2.4.15, it is stated, Yat kirtanam, yat smaranam. Simply by chanting the holy name of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, simply by remembering the lotus feet of Krishna, simply by offering prayers to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, one is immediately freed from material contamination, the material bodily concept, by the blazing fire of ecstasy. This effect takes place immediately, without a second's delay. According to Sri Jiva Goswami, that Sati quit her body means that she gave up within her heart her relationship with Daksha. Sri Vishwanath Chakrabarti Thakur also comments that since Sati is the superintendent deity of the external potency, when she quit her body, she did not get a spiritual body, but simply transferred from the body she had received from Daksha. Other commentators also say that she immediately transferred herself into the womb of Menaka, her future mother. She gave up the body she had received from Daksha and immediately transferred herself to another better body, but this does not mean that she got a spiritual body. Text 28. So this is very interesting, isn't it? Because Sati is eternally the controller of the material energy. She's personified material energy. But that doesn't mean she has a spiritual body. Her body is material. She's the shadow of the goddess of fortune. Just like the shadow, your hand, looks like your hand, and you can make funny figures out of it, rabbit or this or that or the other thing. But it's not, no substance, no form, no shape, no color. When Sati annihilated her body in anger, there was a tumultuous roar all over the universe. Why had Sati, the wife of the most respectable demigod, Lord Shiva, quit her body in such a manner? Purport. There was a tumultuous roaring all over the universe in the societies of the demigods of different planets, because Sati was the daughter of Daksha, the greatest of all kings, and the wife of Lord Shiva, the greatest of all demigods. Why did she become so angry that she gave up her body? Since she was the daughter of a great personality and wife of a great personality, she had nothing to desire. But still she gave up her body in dissatisfaction. Certainly this was astonishing. One cannot attain complete satisfaction even if one is situated in the greatest material opulence. There was nothing Sati could not achieve either from her relationship with her father or from her relationship with the greatest of the demigods. But still, for some reason, she was dissatisfied. Therefore, Srimad-Bhagavatam 126 explains that one has to achieve self-satisfaction, yayatma, supersedity. But Atma, the body, mind, and soul, all become completely satisfied only if one develops devotional service to the Absolute Truth. Savai pung sam pado dharmo yato bhaktir adhoksaje. Adhoksaja means the Absolute Truth. If one can develop his unflinching love for the transcendental Supreme Personality of Godhead, that can give complete satisfaction. Otherwise, there is no possibility of satisfaction in the material world or anywhere else. Text 29. It was astonishing that Daksha, who was Prajapati, the maintainer of all living entities, was so disrespectful to his own daughter Sati, who was not only chaste, but was also a great soul, that she gave up her body because of his neglect. Purport. The word anatmya is significant. Atmya means the life of the soul. So this word indicates that although Daksha appeared to be living, actually he was a dead body. Otherwise, how could he neglect Sati, who was his own daughter? It was the duty of Daksha to look after the maintenance and comforts of all living entities, because he was situated as Prajapati, the governor of all living entities. Therefore, how is it that he neglected his own daughter, who was the most exalted and chaste woman, a great soul, and who therefore deserved the most respectful treatment from her father? The death of Sati, because of her being neglected by Daksha, her father, was most astonishing to all the great demigods of the universe. So this was not a common event. The fact that everybody in the universe was just freaked out means this was not an ordinary event. At that time in the universe, practically everybody followed the proper etiquettes and rules and regulations, so that Daksha, in such a high position, could have acted like this and caused Sati to do this was a scandal. It was scandalous. Therefore, we shouldn't do scandalous things. Text 30. Should behave ourselves properly. Krishna says we should see every living being as a part of Him, belonging to Him. It means that material consciousness is all-pervading, even in the highest places of the universe, if you're not careful. Anyway, there'll be more discussion about this later. Daksha, and actually who he was and what he thought and why. Translation, text 30. Daksha, who is so hard-hearted that he is unworthy to be a Brahmana, will gain extensive ill fame because of his offenses to his daughter, because of not having prevented her death, and because of his great envy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Purport. Daksha is described here as most hard-hearted and therefore unqualified to be a Brahmana. Brahmadruk is described by some commentators to mean Brahmabandhu, or friend of the Brahmanas. A person who is born in a Brahmana family but has no Brahminical qualifications is called a Brahmabandhu. Brahmanas are generally very soft-hearted and forbearing because they have the power to control the senses and the mind. Daksha, however, was not forbearing, for the simple reason that his son-in-law, Lord Shiva, did not stand up to show him the formality of respect. He became so angry and hard-hearted that he tolerated even the death of his dearest daughter. Sati tried her best to mitigate the misunderstanding between the son-in-law and the father-in-law by coming to her father's house, even without an invitation. And at that time, Daksha should have received her, forgetting all past misunderstandings. But he was so hard-hearted that he was unworthy to be called an Aryan or Brahmana. Thus his ill fame still continues. Daksha means expert, and he was given this name because of his ability to beget many hundreds and thousands of children. Persons who are too sexually inclined and materialistic become so hard-hearted because of his slight loss of prestige that they can tolerate even the death of their children. Text 31. There are some mighty lessons here. Translation. While people were talking among themselves about the wonderful voluntary death of Sati, the attendants who had come with her readied themselves to kill Daksha with their weapons. Purport. The attendants who came with Sati were meant to protect her from calamities, but since they were unable to protect their master's wife, they decided to die for her, and before dying they wanted to kill Daksha. It is the duty of attendants to give protection to their master, and in the case of failure, it is their duty to die. Text 32. They came forward forcibly, but Bhrigu saw the danger, and offering oblations into the southern side of the sacrificial fire, immediately uttered mantric hymns from the Yajurveda by which the destroyers of yogic performances could be killed immediately. Purport. Here is one example of powerful hymns in the Vedas, which when chanted could perform wonderful acts. In the present age of Kali, it is not possible to find expert mantra chanters. Therefore, all the sacrifices recommended in the Vedas are forbidden in this age. The only sacrifice recommended in this age is the chanting of the Hare Krishna mantra, because in this age it is not possible to accumulate the needed funds for performing sacrifices, not to speak of finding expert brahmanas who can chant the mantras perfectly. Text 33. When Bhrigu Muni offered oblations in the fire, immediately many thousands of demigods named Ribhus became manifested. All of them were powerful, having achieved strength from Soma, the moon. Purport. It is stated here that many thousands of demigods named Ribhus became manifested because of the oblations offered in the fire and the chanting of the hymns from the Yajurveda. Brahmanas like Bhrigu Muni were so powerful that they could create such wonderful demigods simply by chanting the Vedic mantras. The Vedic mantras are still available, but the chanters are not. By chanting Vedic mantras or chanting the Gayatri or Rig mantra, one can attain the results one desires. In the present age of Kali, it is recommended by Lord Chaitanya that simply by chanting Hare Krishna, one can attain all perfection. Text 34. When the Ribhu demigods attacked the ghosts and Goyakas with half-burned fuel from the yajna fire, all these attendants of Sati fled in different directions and disappeared. This is a great scene for a blockbuster movie, right? This was possible simply because of Brahmatejas, Brahminical power. Purport. Ho hum. The word Brahmatejasa used in this verse is significant. In those days, Brahmanas were so powerful. See, if I was a Brahmana, I could just nullify that sound of that train. You know, put up kind of like, they have these electronic gizmos now. They can nullify the sound. It comes in and then another sound comes and just stops it, makes it, negates it. We should get one of these and, you know, right? Sarva, maybe you can figure this out.
I'm a low-tech person.
Anyway, somebody in this congregation must be high-tech enough to do this. Make a wall of sound along this part that would, you know, block out. That would be far out, wouldn't it? Let's think about it.
How about a mantra that would kill the driver of the train?
No. No, this Kali Yuga, we can't do that. Lord Chaitanya wouldn't approve. Okay. Or at least Lord Nityananda wouldn't approve. Okay. The word Brahmatejasa, this 34, verse 34. The word Brahmatejasa used in this verse is significant. In those days, Brahmanas were so powerful that simply by desiring and by chanting a Vedic mantra, they could accomplish very wonderful effects. But in the present age of degradation, there are no such Brahmanas. According to the Pancharatrika system, in this age, the entire population is supposed to consist of Shudras because the Brahminical culture has been lost. But if anyone displays the signs of understanding Krishna consciousness, he should be accepted, according to the Vaishnava Smriti regulations, as a prospective Brahmana and should be given all facilities to achieve the highest perfection. The most magnanimous gift of Lord Chaitanya's is that the highest perfection of life is available in this fallen age if one simply adopts the process of chanting Hare Krishna, which is able to bring about the fulfillment of all activities in self-realization. Thus ending Bhaktivedanta purport of the 4th canto, 4th chapter of Srimad-Bhagavatam, entitled Sati quits her body. All glories to Sati. She had the guts to do it. Hare Krishna. So, this last statement, the most magnanimous gift of Lord Chaitanya's, is that the highest perfection of life is available in this fallen age if one simply adopts the process of chanting Hare Krishna, which is able to bring about the fulfillment of all activities in self-realization. I was thinking about this when I read it, and then I was thinking, when Prabhupada gave initiation, and all of us who give initiation follow in his footsteps completely, there's only 2 vows, two vows that, it's been a little bit adjusted over time, but the basic vows are still the same. You follow the 4 regs, and you chant 16 rounds of the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra. There's no, you have to do some kind of kirtan, you have to do this, you have to do that. All those things are there, and Prabhupada said you had to do all those things. But in terms of the actual vow for your initiation, the chanting of the Hare Krishna mantra on your beads was the only thing that Prabhupada demanded. So I was just thinking about it when I read this, that actually this japa that we do every day is actually the most important thing. And I think that, anyway, that's what I had to say about that. Hare Krishna. All right, moving right along. Chapter 5, frustration of the sacrifice of Daksha. Text 1. Maitreya said, when Lord Shiva heard from Narada that Sati, his wife, was now dead because of Prajapati Daksha's insult to her, and that his soldiers had been driven away by the Ribu demigods, he became greatly angry. So even Lord Shiva sometimes gets angry, even though he's normally dhira, completely unagitated. Purport. Lord Shiva understood that Sati, being the youngest daughter of Daksha, could present the case of Lord Shiva's purity of purpose, and would thus be able to mitigate the misunderstanding between Daksha and himself. But such a compromise was not attained, and Sati was deliberately insulted by her father by not being received properly when she visited his house without being invited. Sati herself could have killed her father, Daksha, because she is the personified material energy and has immense power to kill and create within this material universe. In the Brahma Samhita, her strength is described. She is capable of creating and dissolving many universes. But although she is so powerful, she acts under the direction of the Supreme Personality of Godhead Krishna as his shadow. It would not have been difficult for Sati to punish her father, but she thought that since she was his daughter, it was not proper for her to kill him.
That's so considerate.
Thus she decided to give up her own body, which she had obtained from his, and Daksha did not even check her. What goes around comes around. When Sati passed away, giving up her body, the news was conveyed by Narada to Lord Shiva. Narada always carries the news of such events because he knows their import. When Lord Shiva heard that his chaste wife Sati was dead, he naturally became exceedingly angry. He also understood that Bhrigu Muni had created the Ribu demigods by uttering the mantras of the Ajurveda, and that these demigods had driven away all his soldiers who were present in the arena of sacrifice. Therefore, he wanted to reply to this insult. And thus he decided to kill Daksha, because he was the cause of the death of Sati. Text 2. Thus Lord Shiva, being extremely angry, pressed his lips with his teeth and immediately snatched from his head a strand of hair which blazed like electricity or fire. He stood up at once, laughing like a madman, and dashed the hair to the ground. This is great stuff, huh?
Oh, yeah. Who needs cable?
Yeah, there you have it. 453. A fearful black demon as high as the sky and as bright as 3 suns combined was thereby created. His teeth were very fearful and the hairs on his head like burning fire. He had thousands of arms equipped with various weapons, and he was garlanded with the heads of men. 4. When the gigantic demon asked with folded hands, "What shall I do, my Lord?" Lord Shiva, who is known as Bhutanath, directly ordered, "Because you were born from my body, you are the chief of all my associates. Therefore, kill Daksha and his soldiers at the sacrifice." This is really out of character for Lord Shiva. Purport. Here is the beginning of competition between Brahmatejas and Shivatejas. By Brahmatejas, Brahminical strength, Bhrigu had created the Ribhu demigods who had driven away the soldiers of Lord Shiva, stationed in the arena. When Lord Shiva heard that his soldiers had been driven away, he created the tall black demon, Virabhadra, to retaliate. There is sometimes a competition between the mode of goodness and the mode of ignorance. That is the way of material existence. Even when one is situated in the mode of goodness, there is every possibility that his position will be mixed with or attacked by the mode of passion or ignorance. That is the law of material nature. Although pure goodness or Shuddha Sattva is the basic principle in the spiritual world, pure manifestation of goodness is not possible in this material world. Thus, the struggle for existence between different material qualities is always present. This quarrel between Lord Shiva and Bhrigu, centering around Prajapati Daksha, is the practical example of such competition between the different qualitative modes of material nature. Text 5. Maitreya continued. Hare Krishna. We thought you were out in the sunshine, enjoying. How are you? Okay, good. Ah, Hare Krishna, Hare Bol. Welcome. Maitreya continued. This is 455. My dear Vidura, that black person was the personified anger of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and he was prepared to execute the orders of Lord Shiva. Thus, considering himself capable of coping with any power offered against him, he circumambulated Lord Shiva. Text 6. Many other soldiers of Lord Shiva followed the fierce personality in a tumultuous uproar. He carried a great trident, fearful enough to kill even death, and on his legs he wore bangles which seemed to roar. Text 7. At that time, all the persons assembled in the sacrificial arena, the priests, the chief of the sacrificial performance, and the brahmanas and their wives, wondered where the darkness was coming from. Later they could understand that it was a dust storm, and all of them were full of anxiety. Text 8. Conjecturing on the origin of the storm, they said, "There is no wind blowing, and no cows are passing, nor is it possible that this dust storm could be raised by plunderers, for there is still the strong King Barhi, who would punish them. Where is this dust storm blowing from? Is it dissolution of the planet now to occur?" Purport. Special significance in this verse is Prachina Barhir Jivati. The king of that part of the land was known as Barhi, and although he was old, he was still living, and he was a very strong ruler. Thus there was no possibility of an invasion by thieves or plunderers. Indirectly it is stated here that thieves, plunderers, rogues, and unwanted population can exist only in a state or kingdom where there is no strong ruler. When in the name of justice thieves are allowed liberty, the state and kingdom are disturbed by such plunderers and unwanted population. The dust storm created by the soldiers and assistants of Lord Shiva resembled the situation at the time of the dissolution of this world. When there is a need for the dissolution of the material creation, this function is conducted by Lord Shiva. Therefore, the situation now created by him resembled the dissolution of the cosmic manifestation. Text 9. Prasuti, the wife of Daksha, along with the other women assembled, became very anxious and said, "This danger has been created by Daksha because of the death of Sati, who, even though completely innocent, quit her body as her sisters looked on." Purport. Prasuti, being a soft-hearted woman, could immediately understand that the imminent danger approaching was due to the impious activity of hard-hearted Prajapati Daksha. He was so cruel that he would not save her youngest daughter, Sati, from the act of committing suicide in the presence of her sisters. Sati's mother could understand how much Sati had been pained by the insult of her father. Sati had been present along with the other daughters, and Daksha had purposely received all of them, but her because she happened to be the wife of Lord Shiva. This consideration convinced the wife of Daksha of the danger which was now ahead, and thus she knew that Daksha must be prepared to die for this heinous act. Text 10. At the time of dissolution, Lord Shiva's hair is scattered, and he pierces the rulers of the different directions with his trident. He laughs and dances proudly, scattering their hands like flags as thunder shatters the clouds all over the world. Purport. Prasuti, who appreciated the power and strength of her son-in-law, Lord Shiva, is describing what he does at the time of dissolution. This description indicates that the strength of Lord Shiva is so great that Daksha's power could not be set in comparison to it. At the time of dissolution, Lord Shiva, with his trident in hand, dances over the rulers of the different planets, and his hair is scattered, just as the clouds are scattered over all directions in order to plunge the different planets into incessant torrents of rain. In the last phase of dissolution, all the planets become inundated with water, and that inundation is caused by the dancing of Lord Shiva. This dance is called Pralaya dance, the Pralaya dance, or dance of dissolution. Prasuti could understand that the dangers ahead resulted not only from Daksha's having neglected her daughter, but also because of his neglecting the prestige and honor of Lord Shiva. 11. The gigantic black man bared his fearful teeth. By the movement of his brows, he scattered the luminaries all over the sky, and he covered them with his strong, piercing effulgence. Because of the misbehavior of Daksha, even Lord Brahma, Daksha's father, could not have been saved from the great exhibition of anger. Text 12. While all the people talked amongst themselves, Daksha saw dangerous omens from all sides, from the earth and from the sky. Purport. In this verse, Daksha has been described as Mahatma. The word Mahatma has been commented upon. The word Mahatma has been commented upon by different commentators in various manners. Viraraghava Acharya has indicated that this word Mahatma means steady in heart. That is to say, that Daksha was so strong-hearted that even when his beloved daughter was prepared to lay down her life, he was steady and unshaken. But in spite of his being so strong-hearted, he was perturbed when he saw the various disturbances created by the gigantic black demon. Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur remarks in this connection that even if one is called Mahatma, a great soul, unless he exhibits the symptoms of a Mahatma, he should be considered a Duratma, or a degraded soul. In Bhagavad Gita 9.13, the word Mahatma describes the pure devotee of the Lord. Mahatmanas tumam partha daivim prakritim ashritaha. A Mahatma is always under the guidance of the internal energy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And thus, how could such a misbehaved person as Daksha be a Mahatma? A Mahatma is supposed to have all the good qualities of the demigods, and thus Daksha, lacking those qualities, should not be called a Mahatma. He should instead be called Duratma, a degraded soul. The word Mahatma to describe the qualifications of Daksha is used sarcastically. This is why we need the commentaries of our acharyas, because they can see things for what they are. They don't get, like bewildered by some external symptom of something. They see through to the actual intent of everything. Text 13. My dear Vidura, all the followers of Lord Shiva surrounded the arena of sacrifice. They were of short stature and were equipped with various kinds of weapons. Their bodies appeared to be like that of sharks, blackish and yellowish. They ran all around the sacrificial arena and began to create disturbances. And that we will, And that like that, before we scare the heck out of some people around here, we'll stop the reading and give us a little break. That's an hour worth of reading, and have some reflections. Huh?
It was interesting, the word, it's like steady in heart.
Here.
The word Mahatma that was used here sarcastically, very
Yeah.
interesting,
Yeah.
steady at heart, so it's
Yeah.
very hard-hearted.
Yes. Exactly. Okay, Hannah, go ahead. Stop crying and shaking and do something.
Sati is described as the most exalted and chaste woman and a great soul. So, is this a Leela? Because why would she have the bad fortune of her father being the embodiment of envy?
Well, it's a good question. Very good question. Looks like you transcended your emotions to come out with a good question. So, it's the material world. That's the basic answer. The material world is no matter where you are, no matter who you are. You know, the material energy is stronger than anyone, except for Krishna. Even Lord Brahma, even Lord Shiva, even the demigods, they sometimes come under very great distress and duress by the shifting of the modes of nature. In the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna describes how the modes of nature are always vying for supremacy. Sometimes goodness, overcomes passion and ignorance. Sometimes ignorance overcomes goodness and passion. Sometimes passion overcomes goodness and ignorance. And like that, there's always competition going on between the modes. So these things are caused by the shifting of the modes of nature. And when we're dealing with very heavy, great personalities, and especially Sati, who is Durga, actually. She's Krishna's shadow. Very, very powerful. So she has not just the potency, but she has the responsibility to correct, persons who are actually very off. Like, remember that story of Jad Bharat? When these dacoits captured him and decided that he would be a good man sacrifice because he appeared to be so dumb and strong. So they were going to sacrifice him. And it's just as they were about to sacrifice him, who came out off the altar? Yes. Who is Sati, who is Durga. And she just had a feast, on these guys. She just cut off all their heads, and all her associates drank their blood right out of their heads. And it was a gory, heavy scene, So she gets really angry when pure devotees. So Sati is the, wife of Shiva. So what to speak of that? Even when Jad Bharat was a pure devotee, when he was going to be, killed, then, Kali just wreaked havoc with these guys, They paid the ultimate price. And this is all about the modes of nature, and when ignorance becomes prominent, then, these things can happen. And, interesting, in the purport itself, it was describing how Lord Shiva, because he's the personification or the deity in charge of the mode of ignorance, he controls himself. You remember when he appeared? He appeared from the forehead of Brahma, when Brahma was angry because the four Kumaras would not become grahastas and populate the universe. And Shiva came out from that anger, because that's, passion, then anger. Anger means krodha, kama krodha. From kama, lust, comes krodha, anger, after frustration. So then, when Shiva came out, then Brahma said, oh, okay, so the Kumars wouldn't do it, so now you should populate the universe. And Lord Shiva said, okay. So he started to populate the universe, and all of them were like destroying everything because they're expansions of Shiva in mode of ignorance. And, all the good things that Brahma was trying to do to create the universe, he was wreaking havoc with it before it got a chance to develop. So then Brahma came over and said, oh, my dear son, you just go to the forest and meditate. And, later on when your services are required, we'll call on you then. So that's Shiva's nature. He's the best Vaishnava. He's not Jiva. He's not Vishnu Tattva. He's in between the Shiva Tattva, unique. He's not either. So therefore he just meditates, basically. Whenever you see a picture of Lord Shiva, he's meditating. He sometimes comes to the rescue of the demigods when he swallowed the poison that came from the churning of the milk ocean, remember? And he took the Ganga on his head when she came down to the earth. Otherwise there was going to be a big hole in the whole earth and it was going to fall out of the sky. So he does this. He takes on the kinds of things that are, required to keep the universe, all the different, it's described that the influence of Shiva comes out in fire, in any kind of destruction, even in the disintegration of the body or diseases. These are all influences of Lord Shiva. So that's his nature, and usually it happens in a natural way in the universe to keep everything, balanced. But when something is done so outrageous, as this Daksha, what he did, and caused, Sati's suicide, then he said, okay, enough. And then he just corrected the situation. And we'll read about that now. And you'll see at the end, everything turns out all right. Because even though Lord Shiva is the incarnation of Lord of Ignorance, he's still transcendental. He's not in ignorance. But because he's in charge of ignorance, he sometimes comes in contact with ignorance, and therefore he sometimes exhibits these symptoms. Loyal husband. Something else?
So we say, the material energies, can impact everyone, including Lord Brahma, Lord Shiva. But Lord Shiva is the husband of Durga. So is he also under the influence?
No, he's transcendental. That's a very nice question. Actually, sometimes he exhibits these kinds of symptoms, but he's actually above it. He's doing it out of duty, and doing the needful, as we would say. But he's never influenced.
It's the same thing with Lord Brahma, who's in charge of God, goodness, knowledge.
Passion.
Passion.
Yes.
So he also doesn't get influenced?
No. I mean, he can, because he's in the mode of passion. But he's very special. His body is so subtle that he can create forms right from his body. He's very special. He's described to be almost as powerful as Krishna.
And how to understand that Sati has a spirit but doesn't have a spiritual body, Shiva Tattva is neither Shiva or Vishnu Tattva is in between. How about the position of Sati? Because as it was describing, and you also told that it's like shadow of Krishna. And
Yeah, she has her eternal manifestation. She's actually the shadow of Lakshmi, Mahalakshmi, in Vaikuntha. So therefore, it's the same as the shadow and the reality, the real body and the shadow. The shadow doesn't have all the characteristics of the real body. So even though Sati is the expansion, it's a perverted expansion. So she has a material body.
This is from Jiva Maya Devi Dasi. Hare Krishna Maharaj.
She's from Wales. Haribol, Jiva Maya.
You mentioned how 16 rounds of japa is our main priority, as it is our initiation vow. I hear a lot about inattention to the holy name, and I have been trying to work on it. But how harmful is inattention to other devotional activities such as hearing? I admit I listen to your readings in most spare moments now, sometimes attentively making notes, but sometimes multitasking, such as when cooking. Is to listen to kirtan or lectures while doing other activities recommended? It seems it is preferable to listening to my mind make mischief.
There's no hard and fast rules. Nam namakari bahuda nija sarvashaktis chacharpita niyamatak smarane nakala nasajicham. Come on, somebody give me the third line. Come on, somebody come out with it. You have to say it loud enough for me to hear. I can't hear. What's this? Etad Rishi Devakripa Bhagavan Mamabmi Durdaivam Idrisha Miha Janinana Raga. So the third line means there's no hard and fast rules. Even though the holy name is completely transcendental, there's millions of names to choose from. Even though Krishna is the best name, Krishna's name is the complete name, still all of his names are equally potent. And they have the same potency as Krishna. And there's no hard and fast rules. So therefore, you can chant anytime, doing anything. You can hear anytime, doing anything. But the best hearing and the best chanting are done with total concentration. So because that japa is the vow for the initiation, you shouldn't do anything else while you're chanting japa, or at least while you're chanting your 16 rounds. Those 2 hours or however long it takes for you to chant belong to Krishna and your spiritual master. And so anything else should be put aside while you're chanting. Because from the inattentive chanting, from the attentive chanting comes everything positive. And from inattentive chanting comes everything else, one's inability to follow strictly. So inattentive chanting is very important, especially our rounds. And it must expand from there to our daily activities. So we should be able to be inoffensive all throughout the day. And we should be able to chant all throughout the day also, eventually. And in terms of hearing, lectures or hearing kirtan while you're doing your household duties or whatever, that's fine. Nothing offensive about that. Like you said, better than listening to your nonsense mind. Okay, Sarvak, it's all yours. You got the mic.
It was said that Lord Shiva is not Vishnu Tattva in one of the purports. And Prabhupada used the phrase Supreme Personality of Godhead so much to refer to Krishna. But in one of the purports he referred to Lord Shiva as one of the three great personalities of God in charge of the management of the material world. So it seems like some people could get confused.
Okay, so they're called qualitative incarnations. So when it describes here that he's one of the three personalities of Godhead, and what was the rest of the sentence?
In charge of the management of the material world.
In charge of the management of the material world. So these three incarnations of Krishna have something to do with the material world. Therefore they're qualified. Therefore they're called qualitative incarnations. Because they actually have duties to take charge of the different modes of nature. And goodness is also a material mode of nature. That's not talking about Shuddha Sattva. That's talking about goodness of the mode of material nature. So therefore, even though Vishnu is transcendental, and Shiva is in a sense transcendental, he's not influenced by the modes of material nature. He has his eternal form in between the spiritual and material worlds. And in the Padma Purana it says that one should not think him to be equal to or independent of Lord Vishnu. So both those ideas are there in that offense. Independent of or equal to. So Prabhupada always chose to emphasize the equal to. You can't see them being Shiva as being equal to Vishnu. But we also can't see him as being independent of Lord Vishnu. And because if we do that, then we may criticize him. So, therefore, Lord Shiva is an aspect of Lord Vishnu called Sada Shiva in his original state, his internal state, as an aspect of Lord Vishnu. And he touches the material energy, whereas Vishnu doesn't touch the material energy, ever. Therefore, there's a slight difference. And that form of Lord Vishnu is drawn back into the body of Lord Vishnu, along with Lord Brahma. Well, sometimes Lord Brahma goes back to Godhead, and sometimes Lord Shiva gets his eternal form next to wherever it is in the aspect of Vishnu. But they're not the same as Mahavishnu. They're not to be considered the same as Mahavishnu or Krishna. The Chiradakashayi Vishnu is a temporary manifestation of Vishnu. He gets wound back up. Garbhodakashayi Vishnu is a temporary manifestation of Vishnu. He gets wound up, back up into Vishnu, into Mahavishnu. Mahavishnu is an eternal manifestation of Vishnu. Sadashiva is an aspect of his. And therefore, it's true that he's not so easy to understand. Shiva Tattva. Not so easy to understand. So yes, it is easy to get confused about Lord Shiva. Anyway, I hope that said something, clarified something, that explanation. And now I'm going to shut down for the night. Hare Krishna. Thank you, all of you loyalists. The cream of the crop are here tonight. They'd rather, hear about Krishna than frolic in the sun. Because it's the first nice day of this season. So, Hare Krishna. Thank you, all of you out there in cyberspace, for being so loyal and joining to hear the Bhagavatam regularly. And I know that you're all feeling ecstasy. I can taste it from here. And thank you so much for encouraging me and giving me the strength to do this. This is not an easy thing to do this every single night, no matter what, no matter where you are, no matter how you feel, every single day. That's rut. That's a strong rut. It's not easy to do, but you're making it not only easy, you're making it a breeze, a fresh breeze. Hare Krishna. Lord Shiva ki jai. Sati ki jai. Gaur Premanandi. Srimad-Bhagavatam.